Welcome to More Than Legal, the show where we go behind the scenes to uncover the fine print of power, purpose, and profit. I'm your host, attorney Danielle Laughlin. After almost 2 decades in the trenches of courtrooms and boardrooms, I have learned that every move leaves a mark and every deal tells a story. What will we uncover today? Let's find out. Hey, real quick, before we dive into the episode, remember, nothing you hear on this podcast is intended to be legal, financial, or tax advice. I invite you to contact any of the guests you hear by looking in the show notes for their contact information, or if you'd like to reach out to me, you can find my contact information at daniellelaughlin.com. All right, now let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to More Than Legal. I'm your host, Danielle Laughlin, and I am pumped to tell you about Juliana Garaizar. She is a total baddie, if I'm going to be honest, and I met her at South by Southwest this year. She's a venture capitalist, and she uses her love for capitalism to make the world a better place. And I believe that we need more people like Juliana at the front and center of our culture, because we need to use our capitalism and our profit to motivate others and to do the good things in the world that we all want to see. And Juliana does that. She's got a passion for clean tech, energy, and environmentalism. She also has a heart for women founders, the LGBTQ community, and those that are underfunded. Access to capital is a big problem, but mostly for the underfunded. And so I just think you're great, Juliana. I want to thank you for coming on. And would you just tell the audience about yourself and what you want them to know about you?
Of course. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. I love the name of the podcast, More Than Legal. I think it's pretty cool. So thank you for bringing it to the listeners. So as I've been a venture capitalist and investor and what I would call a global ecosystem builder for quite a while, more than 25 years. I'm originally from Spain, very close to France. So I've always had this passion for languages, different cultures, and building bridges. So at first I started in international trade, and I was working in the Spanish embassy in Singapore, where I was bringing a lot of Spanish companies to Southeast Asia and the other way around. So I've always tried to understand different cultures, different ways of doing business. For me, studying finance was key. I always felt as a woman, more than anything, I needed to understand the world of how money flows, how things get started, how important the capital is. And that's something that I've been following all my career, always trying to fund the new things that I want to see in the world. But also a lot of it is about empowering people who might not understand finance, because if you don't understand the money behind things, it's very difficult to get to where you want to go. So always been a global citizen. After my stint in Singapore, where I was doing also banking for Citigroup all over the world, I decided I wanted to do something with more impact. And that's when I went to London Business School and then to Haas in Berkeley to study entrepreneurship in finance, and got to see the world of VC in Silicon Valley. I decided that this was what I wanted to do. I was hit with the entrepreneurial bug, and I was like, how can I help create more companies that are changing the world? And that's what I did. First, after my MBA, I was recruited to run a European Business Innovation Center that has like a European Commission stamp of approval. And I was doing that for 5 years in the French Riviera, and we set up an angel group. We set up 5 different funds. Most of my investors were from all over the world, so we ended up going to all cool countries to set up other angel networks and other VC funds. And 15 years ago, I moved to Houston. And that's when I started my great career there, my great journey, where I ran the Houston Angel Network for 5 years. Over there, we became the most active angel network in the US and in the world. Then I helped set up the Texas Medical Center Venture Fund. The Texas Medical Center, as you may know, is the biggest medical city in the world. So we help a lot of new technologies, new medical devices, new companies help by getting money with the fund, but also by the innovation center that was created around that. And then in about 5 years ago, around 6, I was asked to do something that I thought was a little controversial at the time. That was bringing the biggest climate tech incubator in the US, which was based out of Boston, called Greentown Labs. And I thought, like, wow, this is interesting. Houston is the oil and capital of the world. And the people here in Boston, they were 4 entrepreneurs who came out of the MIT and created their companies. And then, they created the incubator, and a lot of other companies followed them. Realized that many of their customers were actually in Houston. And they said, like, maybe expanding to Houston would be a good idea. And they recruited me. And I thought, well, this could be crazy, but it could be also the greatest thing that could happen to Houston and a lot of the companies there. And that's what I did. I raised around 21 million. I was able to select a supermarket as the location for Greentown Labs, and I was able to run it for 4 years, and it was a lot of fun. We impacted a lot of companies, and since then it's been a real success for Houston. After that, I decided to continue my own journey. I always wanted to do what I was doing in a more global way. I felt that when I moved to the US, I got disconnected from my other global networks in Asia, in Europe, in Latin America. And that's what I've been trying to do with the energy backers. And in parallel, always, it's been already 10 years that I've been running these funds that are a platform that empower women and diverse investors into investing. It was around more than 10 years ago that I did this fellowship program called the Kaufman Fellows. It was a leadership program in venture capital. And at the end of the program, you always have to do a sort of end of fellowship project. And some people decided to write books and do research or launch a business. For me, while I was doing this program in leadership, I still felt that the women VCs that were doing the program didn't have the same opportunities, didn't have the same network. And I wanted to dig deeper into the reasons why. What are the problems that the venture capital world sees? Why we're not investing more in women? Less than 2% of the whole VC money gets into female founders. So I decided to study that, and out of the project came out this initiative called Portfolia, that one of the founders of the Kaufman Fellows program was created, and she invited me to be a part of it. And it's been 10 years. I've been running some of the Portfolia funds. A lot of them, of course, have to do around sustainability too, but also women's health, which I think it's there's not enough VC going to problems that we face, because a lot of the VCs are male, and they don't suffer many of the diseases or difficulties that we have. And that's why we decided to focus on that too. We have been, I think, the biggest fund in women's health in the world, definitely in the US. So that has been really exciting. And I've also been running, this is the third fund that I run, called Rising America. And Rising America invests in the underfunded. So we try to target funders that, might not have the powerful networks that many have, like the 3 Fs, full family and friends, and try to get to them and help them. And of course, there's no surprise that those are the funds that overperformed. They were in the two percentile, 2 percentile. So that's pretty amazing in terms of any fund. I'm not talking about the funds only that, so it was the top 2 percentile. Any fund, even the Sequoias, Andreessen Horowitz, didn't get such a big success. But of course, it is also because a lot of these great entrepreneurs don't get a lot of access to funding. So when they do, they do a lot with it. That's key. Also, in general, the valuations for those companies are not very hyped because many of these entrepreneurs don't come from Silicon Valley. So there's no bubbles in terms of valuation. So in general, when they exit, we get very nice multiples. And that's why I think we've been in this top 2 percentile.
Oh my gosh. I feel like our conversation could go on for the rest of the day. It is, you touched on so many things that I love about you, because you have such a wonderful personality and you speak about these things not in an accusatory manner, not to blame anybody, right?
Yeah.
A lot of what we see that's happening now in the world is kind of this like us versus them mentality.
Yeah.
It really is challenging because in business and in work and what we do every day, we don't treat each other that way. But for some reason,
yes.
we've created a culture around that. And your points are so valid. Under 2% of women, under 2% of VC go to women, and the underfunded overperform.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And it's exactly why you say, because they don't have all of that access. They don't have all of those opportunities like some other folks coming out of Silicon Valley that always get the big checks. And so they are stewards over those resources, and they don't. One of the things as an attorney, obviously I'm a risk mitigator. So for me, it's like, I love my investors. I became a VC this year myself. And
yes, so I know that. Yeah.
Yes. And so I finally just kind of got out in there and said, okay, Danielle, it's okay if some of these companies fails, others will win.
That's the model, right?
That's the motto. Yeah. Don't be so risk averse. It's okay. And I finally took that leap. And it really was very much about our conversation that we had in Austin. When I saw you and I said, oh, wow, if Juliana exists, there must be other Julianas out there. Do you know about the Show Her the Money documentary?
I believe I've watched it. It sounds very familiar, but I don't know anymore. I need to double check.
Well, we'll send you that info, and because
please do.
It's the woman. I believe her name is Carolyn Gray. I may be getting that wrong. Maybe Catherine Gray. I think it's Catherine Gray that produced the video as the filmmaker. It's a film, not a video. It's exactly about this. It's about it's about this exact idea. I'd love to get into, you said something, and when you were explaining your background, which I got to say is just absolutely incredible. I mean, wow. But you said, then I got into something that was a little controversial. And it's about, well, how can sustainability be profitable? Why would we put our money into something that is not for people like us, but people like them? I mean, that's the controversy, right?
Yes. And again, I think everything can be seen as controversial or can be seen as an opportunity. And I think, I believe that this is why I'm getting into these topics, because I tend to build bridges. And you talked, Danielle, about division and how now it's an us versus them. In my case, what I really believe it's all about is language. And I really think that when you dig a little deeper, not much, you realize that we all want the same things, that we all love the same things, and that we all care about the same things. It's just about how you frame it, what kind of language you use, and in many cases, a lot of things are both sides of the same coin. So some people just think more in terms of profit. Some other people think more in terms of impact. But I really believe that in a lot of the innovation VC world, the business we create have both, and they go hand in hand. And I think a lot of people tend to be black and white and say like, oh, if there's impact, surely there must be somewhere where I'm leaving some money at the table. And the other way around, some people might say, oh, if you're working with oil and gas, or you're working with this kind of industry, that means that somehow you're funding evil. And, that is also not true. And that's one of the reasons why I was so eager to bring sustainability and climate tech to Houston, because I really believe it's a messaging problem. A lot of the oil and gas companies have been the biggest investors and users of sustainability, of green energy, of renewables. And still there's this stigmas and this, tags that people, this us versus them. And it's like, how can we encounter and all work towards the same goal at the end of the day? One of the things that I've learned very fast on top of, this learning the different languages and different cultures and trying to bring together approaches so that we can finally speak more or less the same language and all advance towards the same goals, is also about portfolio strategy. And that's also something you had to learn as a VC, right? How can you create a sort of portfolio? And it could be a portfolio for investment, but it could be also a portfolio for impact, or a portfolio for your life, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to do with what I do, is saying like, okay, I'm going to work with oil and gas companies, but I'm also going to work with renewables. I'm going to work with utilities. I'm going to try to make them all work together, share risks, see how we can optimize and bring everybody to maybe a healthy middle where, we can have cleaner oil and gas. Maybe oil and gas can also invest in renewables, invest in batteries, bring some cool technologies, bring some AI. I really believe that innovation is going to solve climate change. And once you start talking innovation, everybody loves it. The future is there, the money is there. So suddenly everybody's like, okay, I can deal with that, and I really believe that once we talk innovation, and we talk investing in innovation, and we talk innovating in finance as a way to succeeding and creating a better future for all, that's when everybody gets a lot more aligned. Because for me, it's not looking at what's happening right now. It's like, let's imagine a future, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, where those solutions that we hope we could have already exist, and how now we might be a little bit antagonistic, but how we would work in the future if suddenly there was a cleaner way of, doing oil and gas, or maybe oil and gas was only a part of a portfolio of a lot of energies that we need, because it's not one or the other. It's not renewables, it's not oil and gas. It's a portfolio of things to mitigate risk, right? We're talking a bit about risk mitigation, something that you know very well, Danielle. And I think that's where everything gets a lot more balanced, when there's no a dichotomy of us versus them, but it's a portfolio of like, let's do a little bit of everything. At the end of the day, I have the economist mindset of optimum of Pareto, right?
Yes,
if one wins over the rest, normally the rest is not, there's you need to balance so that everybody wins a little bit, not maybe as much as you would win if there was nobody else, but still everybody, the whole humanity can advance at once.
I love it. I think one of the things that is very motivating for me is to teach young people about economics, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Finance, civic duty, like civic,
Hmm.
I've really been circling around the stewardship idea a lot. I mentioned that we have an event coming up,
Yeah.
and really the theme around it is that stewardship is the future,
Yeah.
and that we all have resources, whether that's actual cash capital or whether that's relationship capital
Yeah.
or community capital. We all have those resources. And everything you're saying to me just makes so much sense, because in our heart of hearts, we are the same. We are all in this
Yes.
together.
We do. We
We live
are.
on the same planet. I mean, I know Alon's taking us to Mars. That's going to be great. But
Yeah.
right now, we're on this planet together.
Yeah.
All of us are here. And
Yeah.
I love that you talk about the Pareto effect and how, listen, like, yeah, exactly. If we have a finite pie, I don't think we do, but like,
And that's the beauty of technology. Technology always makes the pie a lot bigger. So when you think about a bigger pie down the line because you're working together, that's when it becomes exciting, because you don't have to fight for what it is now. If you work together, and that's what I've seen in innovation. I have seen a lot of competitors work together. You see a lot of investors who could take the whole pie and say, like, this is a very good deal. I want to invest all. I have the money and I want to. They say, like, you know what? Let me cut and invest a little less so that we have this new investor that can come in and bring something else to this company. And I think that's when you have the rising tide that lifts all boats, right? If you think about that, and you are not very transactional. I think ecosystems that are really thriving, and there's a very nice book called The Rainforest on how Silicon Valley was created and how those ecosystems of innovations are built. They thrive when you think about, giving forward. Not everything is transactional. And when the ecosystems are very used to competing and are too transactional and think about a zero-sum game, that's when you don't have a forward-looking philosophy, and then you don't grow as much. And I think that's key.
It's so true. Zero-sum thinking.
Yeah.
And also, I'm actually writing a book about these ideas, and I'm so excited
Oh,
because
okay.
you're
I
kind
didn't
of
know that.
I am, and you're validating things that I just feel so grateful that we're having this conversation, because you're validating a lot of things that I've been trying to get out of myself. And I was a philosophy major. So
Well, there's a major that one of my nephews is trying to do that I felt made so much sense: mathematics and philosophy. And I think you're going to need that for AI mainly, because you need a lot of thinking on, if and then, a lot of, this kind of thinking about the decision trees, and how, depending on what you do, what outcomes can happen, probably, but also, philosophically, how this can impact. Can it be used for good? What is good? What is bad? All of these dichotomies, I think, are so essential. And I felt it was such a beautiful degree. So definitely.
I agree. And I didn't know that they were blending. And I think that we're seeing those interdisciplinary studies programs, which I think are brilliant because of exactly that. I get into a debate with my husband. He's a software engineer. And I say, actually, mathematics is a philosophy. And he
totally.
said, oh, no, mathematics is not. And I'm like, it absolutely is. And so
it is the language. It's, as I mentioned, I love languages. And I really think that music is a language. I think mathematics is a language. And everybody, can understand those two, and I think there's some beauty in it, because at the end of the day, the languages shape your brain and how you think. So there's different connections, because sometimes in different parts of the world. Some languages have words that don't exist in some other parts of the world.
Right.
And I think once you have the word, you can make it happen. And sometimes when you don't have the word, you don't even think about something and it doesn't happen, you know? So how language can prompt things into being or can evolve your way of thinking is pretty fascinating.
I love that. I really love that. And I think too, a lot of where I see the world going is towards this idea that we're getting at. And you're taking capital, and you know, that's math, right? I mean,
it is.
That language is math, and it's clear, and it's data driven, and you have the result or you don't have the result. Now, whether we label that in a language way as good or bad is a different question.
Yeah.
But the math has to math. And you mentioned educating about finance. Can you tell us more about that? Where do you see folks? And I know obviously a lot of this is about your background, where you come from, how, you know, is it really culture driven in that regard? As are they choices that are being made? Like, I study philosophy, I didn't study math, right? Like, why? What do you think about that? Why are people picking or not picking to learn about money and finance?
There's a couple of things that I think are very interesting about learning about math and finance. One, and it's kind of, I mean, I didn't know about this data point till literally about a year ago. And every time I think about it, I'm like, how can it be? You know, when you think about the glass ceiling and the fact that, you know, there's around 20% gap in salaries between men and women in average. I'm talking, of course, the gap is wider if we think about women of color, other countries. But anyway, let's think about that, okay? And normally, the salary gap narrows with education, which makes total sense, right? But then there's a data point that I was not aware of, and that's the wealth gap. So what you do with the salary is kind of key. And the wealth gap between men and women actually widens with education.
Really?
It does. It does. It does.
Wow.
Why? And I think that's kind of key. And that's why I'm so involved in this all financial literacy for all kinds of women. It's not only about the ones that, you know, never were in school and could never learn about math and all of that. It's also about the highest level badass C-suite people that, you know, have fought so much to go and narrow the salary gap. But then what do you do with that money once you get it is kind of crucial. And men tend to invest a lot in groups.
Yes.
And they give each other a lot of tips.
Yes.
And you go to the gym, or you go to golf, or you go to whiskey club, cigar club, you name it. You always talk about a tip, is a deal or a stock, anything, you know, that might be useful. So you use to talk about money, and you talk about it in a way where you don't feel shame.
Yes.
And shame is key here. It's not even about learning the way finance works. It's about being okay with earning money. And I think there's a shame component that women have with money. They are very okay with donating and doing a lot of charity, and that's totally fine. But when you feel you're going to be judged about how you manage money, that's when you say, like, you know what, I would rather donate it than investing, because what if I lose the money? How are going to people perceive me? Are they going to think I'm a bad investor? And a lot of women think that investing is a very solo exercise that you need to be very good at by learning a lot. And they don't like telling people, I don't know how to invest. And what they don't understand is that in general, investing is a team sport. Because and only once you get into that, you realize it is. And that's why initiatives like Portfolia are so key, because it's a lot less about educating these amazing professionals into early stage investing. A lot of time is about empowering them, because a lot of the key learnings, they already had them. It's more about using the jargon that sometimes, again, language divides people, right? You don't know the internal jargon of early stage investing, you feel you don't belong. And it might just be a few concepts, So empowering people into investing and making them realize a few things that are very key. One of them is that you don't need to be an Elon, you don't need to be a billionaire to be able to invest. You can, and that's what platforms like Portfolia that have a minimum ticket size of 10K, or many others, crowdfunding platforms or whatever, they empower you to start small and start feeling like, okay, I get it. Now I have a diversified portfolio. So the portfolio diversification risk is at least is not there. And I can see how this person who has already more than 20 years of experience investing invests. So, and I understand the key and the logic behind it. And then I have access now to better deals because I have a network. So suddenly you're empowering a lot of people, and the portfolio effect has been key. We have now more than 2,000 limited partners that in their end, they have empowered many others. They have either created their own funds or their own investment clubs, or they've started investing on the side. And it's been an amazing multiplier effect.
Thank you for listening to the show. Remember, stay sharp, stay curious, and stay tuned for our next episode. Bye for now.